Alright guys, welcome back to Jenny Game, and today I'm playing I'm back with the Stanley Parable 2. Nah. It's still the same game. But the extra content, if you watched last episode, check it out last episode if you haven't yet. You see what's happening. But if you haven't yet, also subscribe. Join the gang. Tell a friend to join the gang. Let's hop right into it. So, it's the new and improved game.
This is the story of...
Skip. But it's...
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply
it's the
missed
bucket.
a memo. Stanley picked up the bucket.
It's my safety bucket. Oh, then I have the content room. Okay.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
If I go to the right.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be. No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Did I go downstairs last time?
And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
No. What? Did I do this last time? I knew I wanted to go down this way.
Oh, good, Stanley. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually.
Oh. What the fuck?
You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much.
Where's the
It's
baby?
this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley.
Where the hell
Classic
the baby come
characters
from?
from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before.
Where's the baby coming from?
Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it. Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well.
No. Ow! Turn it off.
Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
My bucket? No. At this point, you made me like my bucket. I love my bucket. Use my little bucket. Yeah, my little bucket. I love you.
Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer.
No! My bucket.
I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree?
No.
Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you.
My bucket.
Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
No. I'll shut this down.
Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The broom closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and go.
It's my bucket. I will not destroy my bucket. RP to the Bucket Destroyer. We salute.
Bucket Destroyer, my prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
We thank you for your services. Thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. Wait. You back?
All of his co-workers were gone.
I want my bucket back.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him.
My bucket. Uh-oh. This is new, right?
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door
What if I
on his left.
destroyed my bucket? I don't want to destroy my bucket.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room.
I'm not going downstairs. I'm
but
going straight.
Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct?
Go straight.
No, never mind. The bucket was wrong.
Go straight.
Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Nope.
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
What do you think my bucket sound like? How's Yo, I could just walk off. Oh! I get my little random collectible.
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
Okay. Oh, look at that. Look at me back up there. Yo. See, this is what I'm talking about. I like it when they do stuff like this. Just different. Just new stuff.
Okay, this is day number 295. Tape number... I don't even know. I've lost track.
Evidence.
Nothing feels real anymore.
Is this Stanley talking?
The longer I study this bucket, the less sense anything makes. The sheer euphoria I feel every time I pick it up. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling.
I do feel good with my bucket though.
And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down. doesn't make sense.
That's true.
There's no explanation for it. I still haven't figured out why I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms.
He be talking to us.
Why everything feels so... What do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it. Yes. It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket.
You scared me.
This is my golden
Is this
ticket.
Stanley?
But I have to be careful, because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my back. Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get me. What's that? Who's there? Caporata.
What the fuck? This game, it's a horror game now. That's aliens. Yo, what the fuck?
Someone was following Stanley. He was sure of it. If he checked
whoa.
over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them. It was only a matter of time.
I'm picking up my bucket.
The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket.
What the fuck?
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
But I didn't go through.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room.
I want to go
But
up the
Stanley
thing.
had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
I wanna
And
go up
here
to
it
the thing.
was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct?
On the
Was it?
lip.
No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift. Good.
See what's
said the
different with the
bucket.
cargo
Now
lift.
ride the
with
lift all the way to the top. There's something
that.
up there I need you to do.
Look over
Stanley
there.
did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose
shit.
not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
This is new. What the fuck?
No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, "No buckets past this point." Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose
Bro.
that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which,
They didn't
if
tell
that's
me.
true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire
I need
rest
my
of the
bucket.
game if not addressed quickly and properly.
My bucket.
So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
But I need my bucket. How you gonna make me love my bucket? And then like, this is a bucket.
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what
I
is
know what a
or
bucket
is
is.
not a bucket.
This is my bucket.
Okay,
I
let's
don't want no
begin.
other bucket. But my bucket.
Item 1. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
How would I know that?
Item 2. Is this a bucket?
It is a bucket.
Incorrect. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
They're conditioning me to say no.
Item 3. Is
They
this
want
a
me to say
bucket?
no. But I'm gonna say yes.
Correct. This is a bucket.
I know what a bucket looked like.
Item 4. Is this a bucket?
Probably be yes.
Correct. This is a tractor and not a bucket. To be honest, I just sort of put this one in here as a gimme, but I was starting to get concerned that even this might be too much for you. Thank you for not making me look like an idiot. Okay, next one.
Okay. It's another.
Is this a bucket?
I'll just say yes, it is.
Incorrect. This is a bucket.
Okay.
Item 6. Is this a bucket?
No.
Trick question. Both. Gotcha.
How's it both? How's it both? Can you explain how both?
Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere.
Can you explain what both a bucket and not a bucket is?
Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something. And therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket?
No.
You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've
Nothing
lost
is a bucket.
all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley,
No.
I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game.
No.
Okay, here we go.
No. I want my bucket.
What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket. Oh my God, I had no idea. How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets.
But everything else
Yes,
is gone.
I actually feel much more at ease right now.
I can't do nothing.
It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
Okay. Let's ride it all the way throughout. Pause. You hear that? I can't answer the phone.
Hi, Stanley.
Oh, shit.
Just wanted to leave you a message to let you know there's a few things I need you to pick up on your way home from work today. We need milk, cereal, dish soap, spaghetti, get a thing of sugar, some bread, and coffee beans, whichever ones you like. I'll give you a call if there's anything I forgot. Thanks, sweetie. See you tonight.
Yeah.
Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With
My
the bucket
bucket.
in his arms again, he was home. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly
I'm
to
going
his
to the
chest.
right.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room.
I'm going
But
up.
Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
He's going up.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Okay. Just checking every little thing. Make sure it's possible.
In here,
Said the bucket.
go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
It's gonna be different because I have the bucket. No, it's still the
Now
phone
pick
call.
up the phone.
Said the bucket.
Pick up the phone, and it will take us back home, where we can go about life together.
Is it different because I have a
This
bucket?
is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his
Oh,
bucket.
shit.
Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a
bucket's
bucket
not there.
because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
The house is a lot nicer. Thanks to the bucket. Okay. My bucket.
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head.
Hey, bucket.
Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me.
Thank you.
Well, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think. It can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else.
You don't know that.
You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket. This stupid hunk
Not
of
awful.
metal.
I love my bucket.
It's sad, but I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just
Told
going
you I
to
love my
cling to
bucket.
this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it. Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more,
My bucket
trying
watches
to
TV.
say, sturdier, more capable
I'm sorry,
of
though.
transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another. Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket?
Because it's more than a bucket, brother. You know it.
Oh no. I'm having
Wait a minute.
feelings for the bucket. No. What's going on? Why
Wait a
do I
minute.
want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps,
I'm about to make
perhaps
love to
if
a
I
bucket.
had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes. The bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation. Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me.
My bucket.
Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it or I'll...
I close my eyes. My bucket. You don't touch my bucket. My bucket. You gonna start me back over? Okay.
The meeting room. Yes, that's where everyone would be. Stanley just needed to get to the meeting room, and from then on, he would never be alone ever again.
Oh, look.
Stanley
Take
picked
him.
up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around.
It's a meat runner.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
We'll go to the meat room. Wait a minute. More planks. Oh shit. That was for me to do the thing. That's the figurine. That's fine. Stop kidding yourself. I want them so much. Oh shit. Okay, cool.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Let's go upstairs.
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini-stands? Stanley figs? What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
Stanlerines. Yeah, outside yurt. Actually, right. Pause. I guess go up there. No. Okay, waste my goddamn time again. Okay. Do I have to put in code?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket.
I love my bucket.
And he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual
2845.
connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845.
I knew that. I just was trying to.
But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation. Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better
Figlies?
encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
I'm not letting go of my bucket. I mean, I have to soon. See if I can go through that other room without the bucket.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
So I can go to. It's two options here. We're gonna do this one first, then we're gonna come back and do that one, then we're gonna finish. We'll be done.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
That's something we haven't. We already seen this, but it'll be different with my bucket.
The monitors jumped to
hit
life,
him with my
and
bucket.
Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
I got you, bucket. Bucket though.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
Oh God. Also,
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
wait. It's the first time I've ever seen these buttons. There's 3. Okay. I'm sorry, yo. I just want to see what's happening. I can't see. Okay. How can I go up there? Anybody? Answers? I can't see. Okay, maybe I'm not supposed to go up there. Okay. I'll try it. Guess I did. But there's a number up there. That's okay. Last time I turned it off. I'm gonna turn it on this time.
When at last they came to the source of the room's power, Stanley and the bucket knew it was their obligation to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for. But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again.
Well,
Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.
We got a happy ending. Let's go. Me and my bucket. Okay. I like that. That was weird, but
Someone was following Stanley. He was sure of it. If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them. It was only a matter of time.
we're gonna do one more run and then we're gonna be
Just
done.
Stanley and the bucket, off on another thrilling adventure together. Stanley clutched
Must
the
have to go
bucket tightly
downstairs?
to his chest
No,
and
I
entered
just
the
have to
door
go
on
to
his
the exit.
left.
Oh my god. There's something different in this. Wait, look. Have you seen that? Downstairs.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. You're getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the Figler Anmarines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them, and now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler Anmarines. None of us can. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours.
No.
He might be fired for that. And in such a
me my
competitive
bucket.
economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he
My
believed
bucket.
everyone had vanished? His boss would think he
No.
was crazy.
It's the same.
And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms.
Okay.
Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these.
Oh shit, look.
He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong.
This is not my
Surely
bucket,
no
yo.
good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he felt
my
himself
bucket?
floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me, the bucket.
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Where's my
Come
bucket?
to me, Stanley. Find me.
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley
bucket.
doubled over in agony and blacked out.
My bucket.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
never
Mariella woke
listen.
up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her
Everybody
place
has a
of
bucket.
work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
What? What? I lied. That was gonna be our final run.
A soft wind blew outside and perhaps rain started, and if it did, it stopped shortly after. Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather.
Solitaire there.
Where are we
Bucket.
going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly. Stanley clutched the bucket
Let's go
tightly
left.
to his chest and entered the door on his left.
We're going upstairs. We're going back upstairs.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
We've been here before.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life.
2854.
Crushed by the
Wait,
weight of
45.
this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes,
We're gonna
this is
do the
certainly the
escape
most
one,
logical
and then we're done.
explanation.
Then I gotta do it without the bucket. Jump down to see that. That'd be next go round.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
This is how I got to the new content though.
The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
It's my bucket. I like my bucket. I like you. Hey, my bucket could protect me.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be
Damn.
sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
RP.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death.
What about Stanley though?
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
The bucket. The goat. Fucking bucket.
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the
with two
bucket
handles.
is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
Inferno bucket. Look at all the different buckets. What the fuck? Cave drawings of the bucket? The fucking goat.
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
The hanging bucket. Is it the infinite hole? Oh. I was scared.
There is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
We love our bucket. I think we're gonna stop. Yeah, we're gonna stop. Let me see. Say that real quick.
All of his co-workers were gone.
Okay.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
You're gonna start right here. You're gonna start right here. I think I have a couple more things I can go through. I think the next one will probably be the last bit. Maybe not. Who knows? There's a lot of stuff I gotta go back. I gotta go back downstairs and push yes without the bucket. I gotta push no with the bucket. I have to. A couple more things. I can't think of it right now. I know there's a couple more things. But I'll see you guys in the next one. I thank you guys. I love you guys. Always and forever. Peace and chicken grease.